Steve Jobs is often remembered as a visionary, a design perfectionist, and the co-founder of Apple Inc., but behind his success story lies a complex mix of hardship, philosophical thinking, and innovation methodology that reshaped entire industries. Understanding how he approached problems, made decisions, and turned setbacks into breakthroughs offers valuable lessons not just for entrepreneurs, but for scientists, researchers, and creators of any kind. Jobs didn't follow a linear path. He dropped out of college, was deeply influenced by Eastern philosophy, experimented with psychedelics, and embraced both minimalism and intuition as core parts of his worldview. How did this affect his approach to innovation? One key idea was seeing the invisible connections between different disciplines, a fusion of technology and art, hardware and software, intuition and engineering. Jobs often said, you can't connect the dots looking forward, you can only connect them looking backward. This holistic systems-level thinking echoes in how scientific breakthroughs often arise from cross-disciplinary synthesis rather than isolated domain knowledge. What drove him so intensely? Was it just ambition? Jobs faced hardship early in life. He was adopted, felt alienated, and often struggled with identity and control. In his professional life, he was fired from the company he created, Apple, and called difficult by many colleagues. Yet it was after that setback during his time at Next and Pixar that Jobs developed deeper humility and learned how to build better teams. When he returned to Apple in 1997, he combined his bold vision with refined execution. Could it be that rejection was the catalyst that sharpened his philosophy of success? His methods were unconventional but scientific in their own way. He was obsessed with iteration and refinement, similar to how researchers test hypotheses. Every product went through cycles of design, failure, and brutal internal critique. He simplified obsessively, removing buttons, ports, and clutter, not because it was trendy, but because he believed simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. This mirrors Occam's razor in science. The simplest solution is often the best. Jobs also believed in reality distortion, a term his team used to describe his ability to push people beyond their perceived limits. Some saw this as manipulation, but others noted that it led to results that seemed impossible at first. What happens when someone refuses to accept constraints? In science and invention, such delusional persistence often breaks through real barriers. Importantly, Jobs viewed failure as an essential part of learning. At Apple, not every product succeeded. The Newton failed, and early iterations of the iPhone had problems, but Jobs treated failure like a scientist treats unexpected results, as feedback. This mindset is crucial for innovation. Do we fear failure so much that we stop experimenting? Jobs didn't. Another key to his method was end-to-end control. He believed in owning the entire user experience, hardware, software, and even the retail stores. While this might seem rigid, it mirrors how some of the most successful scientific projects, the Human Genome Project or space missions, work, with unified direction and integrated teams. And what about his philosophy of success? It was never just about profit. He wanted to make a dent in the universe, that kind of purpose-driven thinking. Aiming for transformative impact is something many scientists share. Whether mapping the brain, curing disease, or exploring quantum computing, the biggest innovations often come from those who believe deeply in a mission beyond themselves. Jobs' legacy reminds us that innovation is not just technique, it's mindset. A mindset that tolerates hardship, values aesthetics as much as function, integrates diverse knowledge, and pushes beyond the comfort zone. The question remains, can we cultivate that same kind of mindset in our own work? Not just to succeed, but to create something truly meaningful. Steve Jobs' early life was marked by abandonment, financial insecurity, and dropping out of college, yet he saw hardship as fuel rather than a failure. He believed that setbacks sharpened focus and forced creative thinking under constraints, what Jobs called creative discipline. His firing from Apple in 1985 became one of the most pivotal moments as it allowed him to explore new ideas through Next and Pixar. These hardships shaped his belief that suffering, if harnessed, leads to inner clarity and disruptive innovation. Jobs said being fired from Apple was the best thing that could have ever happened because it freed him to think like a beginner again. Hardship for Steve Jobs was like heat for metal. It tempered and forged his resolve into brilliance. Jobs insisted on reducing complexity to its elegant essence, famously quoting, "Simplicity is the ultimate sophistication." His design and innovation decisions were grounded in subtractive thinking, removing the non-essential until clarity emerged. This philosophy applied to both products and teams, small, tight-knit groups working obsessively on focused objectives. The result was innovation that felt intuitive, powerful, and humane. The original iPod had just one button, yet could hold 1,000 songs and be used intuitively within seconds. Jobs approached product design like a sculptor carving marble, removing all that was not the statue. Jobs' so-called reality distortion field was both praised and criticized. It referred to his uncanny ability to push people beyond perceived limits through intense belief and persuasion. While some saw it as manipulative, others described it as a powerful innovation tool that challenged teams to reimagine what was possible. This mental model is similar to lateral thinking, where the mind refuses to be boxed by current limitations. By projecting confidence and impossible expectations, Jobs created a culture of breakthroughs. Engineers repeatedly told him a feature couldn't be built until they did it just weeks later. The reality distortion field was like a gravitational lens, bending the path of reality through concentrated vision. Jobs did not see art and engineering as opposites, but as mutually enriching disciplines. His success came from integrating aesthetics with functionality, emotion with logic, bringing design into the heart of the engineering process. He believed great products are whole experiences, from hardware curves to unboxing rituals to seamless software. This holistic, interdisciplinary approach predated modern UX/UI frameworks and inspired today's product-centric innovation culture. He demanded that even the inside of the Macintosh be beautiful, though no user would see it. For Jobs, innovation was like building a cathedral. Every brick, visible or hidden, had to reflect perfection. Unlike purely analytical thinkers, Jobs emphasized intuition, what he called connecting the dots. He believed that the subconscious mind, fed by diverse experiences, could recognize patterns that logical models missed. This did not mean guessing, but rather allowing deep cross-disciplinary understanding to crystallize into insight. He credited his calligraphy classes, music interest, and love of Zen as foundational to his design sense and product intuition. The font and layout options in early Macintosh computers stemmed directly from his love of calligraphy. His mind worked like a jazz improviser, synthesizing structure and spontaneity into something novel. Jobs embraced failure as part of the innovation cycle, treating missteps not as embarrassments, but as prototypes. Products like the Lisa computer or the Next workstation failed commercially, but laid the groundwork for future hits like Mac OS and the iPhone. He viewed every flop as a necessary iteration on the path to revolutionary success, reinforcing a culture of calculated risk-taking. His tolerance for failure fostered resilience and radical experiment. Next failed as a product, but its software became the foundation of Mac OS and iOS. Jobs used failure like a sculptor uses rough sketches, essential drafts for a masterpiece. Jobs diverged from Silicon Valley's preference for open platforms by advocating full-stack integration, hardware, software, and service in one unified ecosystem. He believed that by controlling the entire experience, Apple could offer products that just work. This approach enabled deeper optimization, tighter security, and more emotional resonance with users. It also demanded discipline, vertical coordination, and long-term vision, traits that shaped Apple's distinctive identity. The seamless syncing of music between iTunes and the iPod created a digital lifestyle before cloud services existed. Jobs ran Apple like a symphony conductor. Every instrument had to follow the same score for harmony. Jobs was a master storyteller, using narratives to distill complex technology into emotionally compelling visions. He understood that ideas don't spread through data alone, but through metaphors, contrast, and drama. His keynote presentations were not product launches, they were theatrical experiences with plot twists, tension, and catharsis. This made him one of the few tech leaders who could inspire both engineers and everyday users. The 2007 iPhone launch introduced 3 devices, an iPod, a phone, and an internet communicator, before revealing they were one. His keynotes were like a scientific opera, evidence set to emotion with climax and resolution. Jobs' methodology lives on in areas like biotech, AI, and quantum computing, where simplicity, interdisciplinary fusion, and user-centric design are becoming critical. His approach teaches that science without emotion risks irrelevance, and emotion without rigor leads to chaos. His true innovation method was not in any one field, but in creating a repeatable mindset that merges vision, discipline, design, and systems thinking. Even in death, Jobs remains a case study in the art and science of innovation. Modern wearable health technologies draw directly from Jobs' vision of merging science, sensors, and human experience. Steve Jobs was not just an inventor, he was a conceptual architect who redefined how humanity engages with technology.